Welcome.
Hola. It's another episode of Scarves and Spikes.
Yes, it is.
Welcome
26.
in. I just figured I would
26.
somehow ended up in the middle. So we got to bring the energy, right? We're back from a bye week. We have a match coming up. It is, I guess, back to the season is normal, right? We have NYCFC tomorrow, rematch. The last one ended in some shenanigans. You had a red card, Ibarra, and you've got a ton of players out. So,
Well, they won.
we're happy to be here.
So not normal.
Good news.
No, it's not normal. I wasn't making all that
Absolutely nothing normal. It's depressing when you look at that list of players not available. Oh man, like it's just like, all right, I guess we'll watch this game. I didn't look to see how many people in New York FC are missing yet, but for us, it's a lot of important players. So this is a big one for Pineda.
Yeah, and I saw some fans saying, "Oh gosh, why does this always happen to Atlanta United?" I mean, this happens to every team. Every team has to deal with this at some point of the season. And yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have had Giakoumakis anyway, even if he weren't on international duty because of his yellow card accumulation. And then pretty much a bunch of other people are coming back from international duty. Almada's questionable, which that's good news. Abram, he's questionable too, which, I mean, if he can't go, then you got Noah Cobb, presumably. Miles, of course, out. Etienne's out. Eric Lopez is questionable, so I don't know. Maybe he gets a run out on Wednesday night. And then Santi Sosa, gosh, poor guy can't catch a break. And one other player who will not be available, we know, is Luis Araujo. He's not even on the availability report. Yeah. So
I win another prediction. Another prediction for me.
Hey, you're right.
I said he was never going to play another minute. It just felt weird because you saw the Instagram thing and it all changed. And like, I get it. Like, players change their Instagrams, but you just add in everything that happened. You add in the knock that he got. It just kind of all led to something weird. And then, you see the supporters go, they let the supporters go to this practice and like all the good players aren't even there. Like all the stars aren't even there. And they get to not even get to see some of them. But yeah, I mean, it would have been helpful for sure to have him at least available for this. But it's he's gone, and I think we're all grateful for that at this point.
One of the comments that Pineda made today I thought was really interesting, and we'll dive into all this stuff in a minute. But he essentially said that he felt it was better for both sides to just kind of move on, and his head's there in Brazil already. That's where he wants to be at. Everybody knew that, but he mentioned making room and giving time for the other players that are going to be taking those positions or that position to kind of settle in and have a little bit more time to really get going. And it makes you wonder, who is that going to be, right? Because obviously the big one is the transfer window coming up. So is it going to be just a like-for-like replacement or something similar to it? Is it going to be Wolf slotting in at that spot, getting more time, Machop Chol, some of the other guys? Or, is it going to be a mix? Because his comments today also were they're probably going to have multiple players coming in if you kind of read between the lines. It's not what he said, but it was pretty, I think, straightforward and obvious kind of what his ideas were. So it's silly season. There's just not enough silliness so far in the news and the rumor mill for Atlanta United fans, and it's frustrating. Like, we want something. Just give us something.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that, kind of bring it back to our Araujo, you'd like to think that Wiley and Etienne are your duo out wide. I mean, more so Etienne on the right. I mean, he's a TAM player. We mentioned it last time. He's on a TAM contract. He's not just any other player. He's been being paid a lot of money. Obviously not as much as our Araujo, but still being paid good amount of money to get out there. Maybe it's not been quite what we expected from him thus far. I know you had the stat title that we were talking about before the show started that kind of shines a little bit of light in his favor. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I feel like, if people don't see goals and assists right away, they feel like a player's a lost cause. And granted, we haven't seen a whole lot of Etienne thus far, and he'll be gone, of course, against NYCFC. So you hope that with Arujo out and with Wiley on the other side, you hope that Etienne can capture the form that he enjoyed, and we talked about it the last time, toward the latter half of the season last year. And yeah, he's a strong player. He's coming off of a career season, and hopefully when he comes back from Haiti or from the Gold Cup, he's able to kind of recapture that form that he enjoyed last year. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. And maybe with Arujo gone, he'll be able to say, hey, this is my moment. I need to really up the ante and help this team and get to where I know I can play.
Yeah.
And he looked a little bit better. Like the last couple of games, it was nothing great, but it did seem like he was getting a little bit better. Like he was getting some nice service from Lennon, and it looked like he was starting to put things together a little bit. But now he's gone. So now that rhythm that they were trying to create is gonna have to take another, step back. Wait till he gets back, and then see how it goes over there. Well, right now we're going to be able to see Gutman and Wiley continue to grow their relationship, and hopefully that side can dominate until you figure out what you can do on that side. But Tyler, you talk about like rumors, and we've been on the bad side of rumors because there has been some news that's been going around. There's been talks about bad contracts and some weird things, which I don't even understand how that all goes. But then the other one is Mosquera returning, your boy, who should have scored a goal. You should have won a free dinner from Doug.
I should have. So frustrating.
He's back, and he can't play. Like he's on. I don't know the MLS rules, but right now, technically, we have 4 U22s. And it's gonna get interesting here in the next couple of weeks. Like, do you have to fix this by the time the window opens? Anyone does know they terminated the loan. Is that correct?
Yes.
For him?
Yeah.
Yep. So essentially you have 4 U22s right now. There are options for sure. I mean, it depends on what kind of salary cap hit and everything else that you want to take. So there's options with him. It's just figuring out what's going to be your most strategic one, because if he's not factoring into the team's plans going forward, which it kind of doesn't seem like it, you've got to figure out another way to offload him somewhere. And then, of course, Sosa is on the last year of his U22 contract in terms of being able to stay eligible for it. So, I think with him, he's another one that's out with another injury. So, do you think about moving away from him as well? I think Sosa is going to be a good fit somewhere. I just think, now he's been through 2 coaches since he was originally brought here under Heinze. So he's another one that you think about maybe getting rid of. There's a lot of space that's going to be open, but you don't want to have to force something and lose one of those spots because you have to figure out a way to keep Mosquera. I think that there's going to have to be some, kind of not funny business, but funny business to make it happen and get things, official before the end of the window. So the other one that's going to be off the books is my boy Marcelino Moreno. And I'm so sad about it. Officially, Mando off the books. And I wore his jersey in honor of my fallen
Your guy.
So, but it does free up even more space. So you're looking at him essentially opening up a TAM deal for somebody. And then obviously Arujo is off, DP spot. And then who knows what other moves happen, right? And so there's definitely lots of movement going on. It's just we want some incoming stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Extra Time this afternoon, and they were talking about who they could potentially bring in. And Tom Bogert said, I would think they might actually right now try and go look for an Almada replacement now, because there's more options in the summer as opposed to the winter. So get him and maybe take him and say, okay, we can play him. Hopefully he could play other spots as well besides that. And maybe that would be something that works. and then then go find that young DP next winter when you go take Almada out. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they do here and where these rumors start really going. The other thing that they talked about is do you think Atlanta United should go for it this year, right? And like, because you're going into the Messi era in a couple weeks, right?
The Messi era.
And it really is, because
Yeah.
we don't know what the success is going to be of Inter Miami. They could blow up and they could be a dynasty for 3 years, for all we know. We don't know how this is going to work, but there's a very good chance that this team could all of a sudden become it for 3 years. So do you go now, right? Like, you've got Miles Robinson, you've got Almada, you've got Giakoumakis, like, you've got all these stars here that if you can get a piece, try to make a run this year, because you're going to lose at least likely Almada and Miles. Yeah. You're going to have to replace it, and it's kind of be another rebuilding type thing where you're going to have to find some new guys in the winter. But why not go for it now? And I think we've talked about that a little bit. Like, should they go for it this year? Like, is it too early in the Garth Lagerwey history to like go for this now? And you got success. You got one of the leading goal scorers in the league. You've got one of the best young players in the league, one of the best defensemen. Why can't you've got some decent players there. If you can go get, like you said, Tyler, a TAM player and another DP, I think you can this team, with how they can play, especially play at home, and they can get a home playoff game. I mean, they're going to get a home playoff game no matter what if they make the playoffs, and then hopefully hope for some upsets and just have more home games. I think that as long as they're not sacrificing the future here for something silly, I think that they should really go for it this season.
Yeah, the East is pretty wide open, right? We talked about it last time. So they're tied with Columbus on points, but Columbus are in fifth due to more wins, 8 wins to Atlanta's 7. So Columbus are in fifth, Atlanta's in 6th. You have Philly, who's in 4th with 30 points. New England, 33. I mean, New England are kind of hot and cold. They have a Nashville team that is really putting it together. I believe something like 10 matches unbeaten in a row, and Mukhtar has like been phenomenal, 13 goals, top of the Golden Boot race right now. And then Cincinnati with 40 points, so 5 points separating them and Nashville. So not insurmountable for Nashville, but again, when you look at spots, maybe 3 through 6, that's still pretty wide open. I mean, none of those teams I mentioned are infallible. None of it with Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati's losing Brenner in the summer, and they're bringing in the guy from Gabon, and they'll have Vasquez as well, obviously. So when their new DP comes in, what is that adjustment going to look like for him once he gets to MLS? So that's something you have to look at. Nashville, does Mukhtar stay healthy? Because if he goes down, I mean, Nashville could be in trouble. New England, like I said, very hot and cold. Philly, it's kind of the same deal. Columbus, kind of the same deal. So, I mean, it's not... Atlanta aren't in a bad position. And, I agree, Tommy. It really depends on this transfer window, what they do, whether they can pull the right strings and get themselves in the position where they can make the push. And, I feel like, go for it if you can. You're not too far out of the race. I mean, right there in the thick of things. And, we talked earlier in the year about Atlanta kind of banking points. I think they're in a really good spot because of that. If they can catch a wave of momentum. Now, Wesley will be tough against NYCFC because they're missing so many players. And then Red Bulls, you have a little bit more of a margin because you'll have a bunch of those players back. But if you can put together a good account for yourselves against New York City and maybe nick a goal and come away with 3 points and give yourself half a chance against Red Bulls on Saturday, mean, you're in a really good spot headed into a match against Philly going into the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah. The summer window, like I called it, is very much the great wild card, right? Because you can look at both sides of the coin. Like you talked about Cincinnati, they're losing one of their stars, and they're making moves, admittedly, but nobody knows how these moves are going to play out until they play out.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You know, you can bring in even we're talking about Miami. If we're being honest, you look at obviously Messi and whoever else they decide to officially bring in. You got Tata Martino, who seems to be officially coming on as well.
Busquets as well.
But
it's not a guarantee.
Never a guarantee. I mean, Messi, you could probably chalk it up to a pretty good guarantee. But anybody besides that, like, it's still a league that has talent in it that you're playing against. Messi doesn't go out there and win every match he plays in 4 or 5-0, right? It's how everybody else is going to tie in with him. So the summer transfer window is huge. It's going to make or break, I think, a lot of teams. But yeah, like, you have to go for it. And like Jimothy saying in the chat, as a massive club, you have to go for it every chance you get. 100%. You have to. Like, you have the money to throw around. Atlanta's always had that. There's been no issue. You have a guy in the front office who seems to be pulling the right strings, making things happen, keeping it very hush-hush, admittedly, which is to the ire of fans. But you're in a good position. Yes, the standings are solid. It is a little precarious because you're 6 points away from below the playoff line. But at the same time, you've got some matches coming up that you should win. You've got some really tough ones, but you just got to take advantage of the ones in front of you. And New York tomorrow is a huge one because you have both teams have folks out, right? You hope that they can look back at the beginning of this season and say the match against Columbus was an aberration. It's not going to happen again. The guys that are needing to step up in these moments where the international window just screws everything up, this is their chance, right? You're at home now. You're not in Columbus. You're at home in front of the 17s, in front of probably it's a weeknight, so I would guess 42,000 people roughly. Go give them a reason to hope you're the next guy to step up permanently.
Agreed.
So this is a perfect time, I think, Sydney, really quick.
Yes.
Because we didn't do it in the beginning of the show. But we got to mention Patreon. Tell them what all has been happening on the Patreon, and then all the other plugs that we have going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So patreon.com/Scarfs and Spikes, and I really appreciate those that have subscribed and do subscribe to us. Just to, again, note, the weekly show, the podcast are always going to be free, right? But at the same time, we want to add in some bonus coverage for you guys, things you wouldn't get on a weekly basis from the YouTube feed and all of that. And the other day, I did an interview with Glenn Crooks, who's the radio voice of NYCFC and has been since day one, and really good conversation about the state of NYCFC. They're in a really difficult way right now. They haven't won since April, and we kind of talked about that. We kind of talked about
You just jinxed it. Just jinxed it. We're losing. We're losing. Oh no, you said it.
Just the facts. But yeah, I mean, they're looking to find their way, and we talked about that. We talked about sort of some holes that they have. We mentioned Sands is at the Gold Cup with Robinson. Talked about maybe the issues that they're having at striker. We talked about Amaria, their goalkeeper is coming in for Sean Johnson, and how he's kind of adjusted to things. So we talked about a lot. But yeah, it's right there on Patreon, patreon.com/Scarfs and Spikes. Go to that website, and if you haven't subscribed and you're watching and listening, please go ahead and do so right now. It's just a few bucks a month. It helps us continue to bring you great Atlanta United content and other stuff. So yes, go ahead and click that link right now, whether you're watching live or after the fact or listening on the podcast. Patreon.com/Scarfs and Spikes. And again, really appreciate those that have supported us and do support us on a monthly basis.
Always.
Mid-season review we just put up last week.
Yep, mid-season
that
review.
Was a good time. That was fun, and we when we were doing a watch along for the U.S. national game, we were talking about what our watch along would be, and I think it only makes sense that we do Atlanta versus Messi.
Yep.
Hey,
it seems like that's it seems like that's the big one, right? And it's going to be interesting to see because I mean he's going to be fresh here, and it's going to be a big one. So yeah, we're going to have a fun month coming up here in July.
Yep, that's going to be hopefully our biggest watch along because it seems like everybody's going to be watching that game anyway. And of course we're actually speaking about the one in the Leagues Cup, not the one in September. Obviously, it was for the end of July. That'll be the one where presumably Messi's going to be making his first appearance against Cruz Azul a few days before that, and then they play us, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it vice versa?
Yeah, I believe you're right, and we'll double check. But I mean, there's going to be chaos around that stadium.
Yes.
I mean, it's not really small, but it's small. It's just going to be a lot of trouble getting in and out, and tickets will be few and far between. People are going to be price gouging if they aren't already. Well, they are already. I know they are.
Oh, they are.
Right.
But they are.
That is in force.
But yeah, that's going to be insane. Lionel Messi and MLS still seems weird to think about, but it's happening. It's on the way. And again, just checking the Gold Cup schedule. Yeah, Cruz Azul, like you said, Tyler, on July 21st. Yeah, and Leagues Cup, I apologize. On July 21st, and then Atlanta United on July 25th.
Yes.
So yeah, we're not the first team. MLS. Yeah, we are the first team. MLS team. Messi faces. So we'll kind of have that designation for all of history that the first team Lionel Messi faced in MLS was Atlanta United.
So the Cruz Azul game, real quick. Let's have some fun here. I'm on SeatGeek right now. What do you think the cheapest seat is for the Cruz Azul game?
$9,000.
Wow, the cheapest? Okay.
All right. Cheapest. I'm gonna go with about $350.
$1,387.
Wow.
What the heck, man?
And then Atlanta, the cheapest one, $695.
What in the world?
For the one in September? No, I saw there were some tickets for.
Oh no, sorry, we're talking about the July games.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Leagues Cup.
Gotcha. Leagues Cup. Gotcha.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
That
that's the age we're in now.
Exactly.
At least for a while.
Good grief. That's insane. But yeah, July 25th, Leagues Cup, and it's gonna be here before you know it. We should tell everyone, by the way, in just a few minutes, Devon Kerr, who will be calling the match, along with Tyler Terrence on MLS Season Pass, will be joining us, and we'll get his thoughts on the match, what he's thinking about MLS thus far, Nations League. So we'll pick his brain. Should be a fun conversation, and he'll be joining us shortly.
Yep. So, in the meantime, there are other things going on in Atlanta United's world. You had fairly recently the U14s, I believe it was. U14s won the Patterson's Cup, which is essentially one of the biggest titles that you can win for that age group.
Nice.
They won it. I think it was June 11th, June 10th. So been a little bit, but to kind of recap everything that's going on with the academy right now. So they won that, add another trophy to the collection. It's a youth trophy, academy trophy.
Cool.
We talk about the academy on this show all the time. We talk about the twos all the time on this show because they need love. They need to be seen in the same way that the first team is, because these are going to be you're going to see it tomorrow, right? You're going to see a lot of these twos guys. They're going to be playing for the first team. If they're not playing directly, they're going to be on the bench. So, and I personally think you're going to see at least one of them, but we'll see. That being said, we try to bring you guys this information so that you're not just caught by surprise whenever somebody appears on the roster. You're like, who the heck is that guy? Like,
Right.
there is talent coming up through this pipeline, and it is really, really good talent. And right now they have the MLS Next Cup going on, and Atlanta's having a pretty good account of themselves. Honestly, the only ones that have had kind of a rough showing was the U17s.
Yeah.
They've got a handful of, I think, showcase matches left. The 15s, they made it to the round of 32, got knocked out by Chicago 2-1.
Yeah.
But the 16s are in the semifinals, and they are playing against a team called Solar SC out of Texas. They're going to be playing on the 22nd at 8:30 Central Time. So what is that? 10:30 here? No, it's 9:30 here.
9:30 here.
9:30.
Yep. 9:30 here.
So if they win that one, they're going to play the winners of either it's a club called Strikers FC or Michigan Jaguars. I love these academy names; they're awesome.
They're random like makeup teams in like Madden, like we just find like a random logo and you're just you move your team to somewhere.
Like Soccer FC United or something.
Right,
like
exactly.
It's just the most generic name. So
it's just a soccer ball with like a paw on it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, but that semifinal will be on Thursday. Both semifinals will be on Thursday, and then the final will be on the 24th at Toyota Stadium in Frisco at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe that's on MLSsoccer.com, if I'm not mistaken, and on MLS Season Pass. MLS Season Pass will have all the action. So, yeah, tune in if you can.
24th?
24th, so it's Saturday, correct.
What a big day, right? Like you could have those finals. You've got Atlanta United playing, got Miles playing with the US. It's gonna be a busy night.
Yeah.
Busy day. Wake up early, start, take a break, take a nap, get ready for nighttime.
Round 2, round 3.
Yeah, start your day of soccer and your night and your day with soccer. US Jamaica, 9:30 on the 24th. 9:30 p.m. I should say on the 24th. So yeah, really full day, and that one, by the way, is at Soldier Field in Chicago. So US and Jamaica kicking off the Gold Cup. I believe Andre Blake will be involved.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
And then Trinidad and Tobago taking on. Oh no, that's on Sunday. But US Jamaica kicking off the tournament on Saturday, June 24th, 9:30 on FS1, I believe, or Fox or Big Fox. I'm pretty sure it's FS1, but it will be at Soldier Field in Chicago. So exciting times. Justin talking about our beard before we kind of pivot here. So if you're watching the stream, yes, our beards are very prominent. I feel like mine is bigger. Tyler's is bigger, actually.
I don't know, and I've cut a lot. I cut a lot.
Tommy
I
has
looked like a
catching up
lumberjack
to
last year.
It's not the size of the beard, it's the motion of the beard. That's what I read on a wall once.
That's right.
That's what they say. Was it a bathroom wall?
Yes.
Where at? Enlighten me.
Some truck stop.
Of course it was. So the we try to bring you the academy news, guys. It comes as quick as we can. One guy we're going to talk about, Nick Firmino, is having a run with the twos right now, and you're going to see him in some way, shape, or form tomorrow and probably Saturday. He along with Luke Brennan are getting called up to essentially an emergency 4-day signing contract, and some people seem to think Nick Firmino may make an appearance, may not, but I mean the guy's having a run down in Next Pro right now, and he's one of the hottest midfielders in Next Pro. So I think with the midfield issues that Atlanta's been having lately, I wouldn't be surprised to see him make a cameo tomorrow.
Maybe for a few minutes, but I don't know if he'll start.
Yeah, Doug kind of put some cold water on it this afternoon on Twitter. Doug doesn't like fun, but like it. But like you had this game in Columbus, right, where all those players were gone, and you tried to. I don't know what the term really was. I mean, I don't think they were very bold in that. They kind of were just very plain on what they did. They just kind of put players together and try to get to work. But if this is Seattle was known for it, right? That they got when they were short players, they'd call up a bunch of young kids and start them, right? Like that was something that Seattle did quite a few times. If I'm in this situation right now, why not? Why not try and get a little bit creative here? Get a kid that's hot right now in Next Pro and see what he can do. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. He goes back and he continues to develop. But let's have fun with it because it's Ozetu. And we know what we're getting there. And if there's a time for this, the time is now.
Yeah, and we'll kind of pivot off that in a little bit. And it's not really Seattle. I'm sure other teams in the league do it.
I mean, Dallas has done it. Seattle was
Dallas,
for it. Yeah,
Philly. But yeah, this
but Pineda was part of that. But like Pineda was that's why I brought Seattle up, was because Pineda was a part of that, and he's seen this happen. Yeah. So he should be able to hopefully try to recreate it a little bit.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent.
Cool.
Perfect time to pivot. Sydney, you want to let everybody know who's coming in?
I will. Join us now. I mentioned earlier he's calling the match on MLS Season Pass on Wednesday with Tyler Terrence from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You may know him as well, calling USL Gold Cup on the World Feed, I believe. CONCACAF Champions League on the World Feed.
Everywhere.
And everywhere. He's everywhere. Devon Kerr is with us. Devon, how are you?
How are you, boys?
I'm
sorry, I didn't get the memo about the beard I shaved yesterday. That's my bad.
Dang it.
It's okay.
We're close.
No, good to have you, man. Really appreciate you. So this is your first time going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year. Have you had a chance to be at the venue beforehand, or?
I hate to brag, but I think you guys should bring me back more often, because the only time I was here, you guys won a title. I covered the 2019 Gold Cup, the 2019 Open Cup. I was on the sideline for that. So
that's right.
1-0 in the building, boys. Yeah. Honored to be back. No, I love this city. I've been here a ton. Growing up, the culinary side of things, kind of making my way as I was trying to get picked up by teams. I worked in restaurants. So long story short, my friend's the owner of Atlanta Breakfast Club. So kind of come up here, visit him whenever I can. The city's always been very kind to me. And the problem is I usually only get to spend about 45 minutes in it, because I'm usually passing through, because I refuse to play anything but Delta. But finally, feel like I get to experience a little bit of the greatness that was in 2019. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
You're like an honorary Atlantan then.
Yeah, basically, right? I mean, I've done 54 flights this year and close to 70,000 miles, which means I've been in that airport 40 times already, roughly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Got a ton of food vouchers if you guys want them, because I never had enough time to eat. So thanks for having me on. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. So we'll talk about Atlanta United in a little bit, but I'm sure you're watching the Nations League over the weekend.
Yep.
U.S. and Mexico, and then U.S. and Canada. Just give us your thoughts on the semifinals and final, and really where you see the trajectory of the national team going in, not just the Gold Cup, but in, I guess, the Berhalter era part 2, if you will.
You're going to get me fired right away, huh? Okay. That's fair. Let's do it, boys. All right. No, look, like I said this coming into Nations League semis and obviously then subsequently the final, that I was happy that they stayed within the group at that point in time and you went with BJ, because so many of the guys were so familiar with each other and you don't want to rock the boat. And would I have liked to have seen a hire earlier? Abso-freaking-lutely. Let's be honest. Everybody in the world did. The Federation made a decision. What is it? 6.5 months ago now, whatever it is. That at that point in time they weren't going to renew him. This is nothing against Greg Berhalter. I just don't understand what we did for 6.5 months, honestly. And I've heard a lot of people make arguments about what we should have done. I think that's subjective at best, and I fully respect that, but you can't convince me that 6.5 months is not lost time and work with the group. And so I would have liked to have seen, even if you're going to go with Greg again, do it sooner. So the whole idea of we're going to go get a third party and we're going to get this, and we're going to have someone chase what's best for the organization to bring the same person back 6.5 months later is not good enough for this country. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard because the players deserve better, and most importantly, the fans deserve better. So that being all said, as I get off the soapbox, guys perform well. They did what they had to do. They smacked Eltree around. They had to go through the mental, physical, and emotional side of a game that, as we've seen with them in previous years, is not the easiest thing to handle. And yet, all of a sudden, what is it, 6 in a row now? Is that right? Or 5 that we've taken them down?
5 or 6.
I don't add well, so I'm going to lean on you guys for that. All of a sudden, we're the big brother, right? And in theory, we're a top CONCACAF. Now, I'm sure Gold Cup might give us a little bit better of an argument. We do it twice in a row, and Canada gets off their high pedestal for their run to the World Cup and all that stuff. I think the guys are trending in the right direction. Had an opportunity to interview a couple of them behind the scenes, and they're in a good place. What does the direction look like? I don't know. I'm concerned, skeptical, excited. There's a lot of words that can be used because I certainly don't want to fall into the same trend that we had over the past cycle with this group and this group of coaches where we can do whatever we want on home soil and we travel abroad for a tournament and we can't do anything, especially on the attacking side of the ball. And I'm fully about the process and believing in that process and that it will produce results. But at some point in time, you have to be held accountable. Now, again, I'm being clear that I'm talking about everybody involved in the project, from the top and the federation all the way down to, who's handling equipment or groundskeeper. Like, this is a group and we all have to do it together. So right now, there's good patterns of play. There was great fight in the Mexico game. Kind of went through the motions in the Canada game, in my opinion. Even with some rotated personnel, I just felt like we never, in my opinion, we were never really challenged. Like, we're taught in broadcasting to not say, well, I think, right? Like, as an analyst, you're brought there because of your experience. You're supposed to say, this is what happens, why. But in that situation, like, in my opinion, we kind of just coasted through. It wasn't a crazy good game. It wasn't ridiculous movements. It was just another game where the guys went out, and I love seeing Balogun get his goal. So that's great. Yeah. And now we're here. The Gold Cup is going to be something totally different because the roster is totally different. You're rotating a lot of pieces. Personally, I think we left a couple of guys out that could have used a good run here, but what do I know, right?
Well, that was actually the next question. What do you overall think of the Gold Cup roster in general? You've got a couple that are staying around. Obviously, we can't be here and not talk about Miles Robinson, obviously, as an Atlanta podcast, but do you think they're going to be as dominant as they were in this semifinal and final?
Well, I can tell you that's obviously the hope for everybody, right? I mean, the roster is interesting to me because, like, look, it gives you flexibility from a tactical standpoint. I'll give them that. The midfield concerns me a little bit, especially on the outside. And maybe lack of depth, we'll call it. The other side of it is because of the fact that you have these kind of plug-and-play pieces. Like, for instance, we have Jordan Morris. Like, we know Jordan Morris can play on either wing. You can play him in the 9. You can play him in the false 9 if you want to. Seattle's proven that, and he's been successful. I don't see the United States men's national team going that route. So, okay, you basically leave him on the outside. Well, Brendan Vasquez, great. Ferreira, great. Cade Cowell, great. Like, all those guys, we want them to operate up top. Cal can operate off the wing. As I look through it, to me, it's very linear in its thoughts. The midfield down underneath, like Aiden, love him to death. Think he's one of the rising stars within Major League Soccer. I'm going to be on the call for their game on Saturday against Nashville. But it's basically Aiden and James. And then, like, Allen's still kind of getting his way through the group. At least Aiden and James, and especially James, like, they've been around the group a lot more. Allen hasn't been there as much. Those other two guys have been in a lot of camps. Allen hasn't been in as many. So I just wonder, like, some of the depth down underneath. Attacking wise, I'm sure it'll be fine. But and then everybody else, it's great. Like, Matty Turner's there, awesome. Shawnee Johnson deserves it. Gaga is certainly still waiting in the wings, trying to figure some things out, getting his repetitions. I don't really have an overall concern at center back. Jalen Neal is an interesting pick to me because he's so young and definitely in terms of what his responsibility would be on the back line. Like you can look at John Tolkien. I think Tolkien only has one and Neil has two or three. So Neil's the superior, right? But like Tolkien's been playing for the first team for quite some time within Rebel and kind of making that his own. You can't really make the same argument for Jalen Neal. So all in all, it's a B-ish type squad, if that's how people want to phrase it. I know this is kind of long-winded. Sorry. I kind of nerd out when we get into these things.
Hey, not at all. That's what we're here for.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a ton of talent and guys that deserve some opportunities. And go back to it. Aiden Morris is one of them for me. I look at Aiden Morris as a guy that who better to learn from than Darlington Nagbe in Columbus, and a guy that the national team, we deserved him so much that we didn't deserve him. Like, what a great player. And I would love to see Aiden Morris kind of take the torch and continue to learn from Darlington Nagbe and push himself and become someone that is such a reliable six for this country.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I was just going to say, like, going back for a minute, one of the most interesting things I find before games, during games, just hearing the analysts and the announcers be critical of the teams, especially the home team. And Paramount was, if you watch the pregame of what they were talking about, they were very critical of just the timing of everything that basically happened with Berhalter. Like, it comes out right before Mexico, and then you don't have Berhalter coming, really into the team till after the Gold Cup. It seems like the team has it down straight, but the front office is still just making some weird decisions. And I think that's kind of how it's felt here for a while now. And it keeps feeling like it's just building on. Like you can't be very critical of the play right now, but you can be very critical of just the entire process in general of what the U.S. has been doing for a while now.
Groundhog Day. Can we just say that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm with you, man. And here's the thing that I think, I don't want to say I think, I know that fans will feel comfort in it. It doesn't make it right, but there are plenty of people within that federation and within that process that feel the exact same way. And I know that doesn't give people like, oh, you know what? They're feeling the same way that we are, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. Like, we have reached a point in this country that we hold ourselves to a certain standard. And we don't meet that standard, there are ramifications for that. And we're certainly within that realm right now. I will say that there are a lot of really good people within the federation that are trying to make this right. They're trying to put this country to the right spot. And there were also a lot of really good people that were involved that are no longer there. You can make that argument in the front office. I personally would probably lean towards the developmental side of things. Like, to me, I'm really curious what the next 6 to 8 years looks like on the developmental side, because some of the massive names that were there that helped create this golden generation that we're staring at right now are no longer there. That's not to say that the people there aren't going to be able to do their jobs. That's just to say that guys like John Hackworth, who's one of the assistants at St. Louis right now, Tab Ramos, who is the head coach at Hartford Athletic, Raphael Wicki, who didn't work out for him in Chicago, but these were the mainstays at the younger levels that helped produce your Adams, your McKinneys, your Pulisics, that pushed everybody through so that they now are the face of this federation and this country. I just don't know what that next level looks like. But yeah, man, it's frustrating. And we also live in an age where club, national team, whatever, our world, not even our country, is so here and now and flick your wrist, snap your fingers. I want responses. I want results. I want to get it. I think that's the best thing, because it holds people accountable and it makes you immediately continue to push yourself and drive that process. But it also makes things so impatient at times. And I feel like sometimes we can all just take a step back. Love the passion, by the way. We need to have the passion and we need to hold people accountable. But we also need to be able to have the ability to take a deep breath together and breathe and go, well, there is a lot of good in what's going on right now.
Yeah. Agreed. So, got to bring it back to Atlanta United and NYCFC. I
feel like you're talking about Atlanta United right now. Yeah. I feel like we have the same conversation on a weekly basis.
Definitely a lot of parallels. But look at MLS as a whole. I guess, what's been your biggest surprise?
You mean in terms of the league, like performances, or in terms of the Apple deal and broadcasting and stuff?
Well, more like
Ooh, that could go far. That could
exactly. Yeah, but what's been like the surprise team? Who's really jumped out to you that you didn't necessarily think that maybe they wouldn't have the best season, but has really, I guess, outperformed expectations in your mind?
I don't care who sits here and says to you that FC Cincinnati was going to be in the position that they're in. Right. They're a liar. They're absolutely full of it, and that's a joke. Pat Noonan himself would say to you, like, they probably didn't expect to be in this spot. So whoever does that, gut check right away. They're really impressive, man. And look, one loss on the year. I used to joke with them at the beginning of the year because I had them 3 games in a row. And they didn't lose. It was like I think they had a win and 2 draws. And I used to joke with the organization, kind of like I did coming on. Well, I'm unbeaten when I'm on the call for you guys. Right. So, but then I was a part of the 5-1 smackdown that was St. Louis. So I don't have that claim to fame anymore. Look, they're very composed on a regular basis. The emotional side of the game, they use it to their advantage. Their back 3 is super aggressive, like hyper aggressive. I don't know if I've ever seen a back 3 in Mosquera, Hagelin, and Miazga that are willing to not just do the dirty work, but immediately grab possession and push the tempo going forward. And they're efficient at doing it. It's no secret that Acosta is one of the most exciting players in MLS. And when he is on, he is one of, if not the best player in Major League Soccer. What's crazy is that they are 12-1-4. They are unbeaten at home, 9-0-0, which is ridiculous. Yeah. They are on 40 points, and their strikers really haven't done that much, to be fair. Like Brandon Vasquez, quiet. Brenner obviously gone. You know, it's Sergio Santos hasn't lived up to it. Dominic Baggi has done a really good job in terms of supporting personnel, but they're not lighting it up in the striker position, and yet you're looking at a historic run. I imagined that team from what I had seen last year and how they grew. I didn't think they would continue as much attacking-wise, and I thought defensively would get better. Certainly not to the tune of where they're at right now. Best record ever through 16 games, most points, like all that kind of stuff. They are incredible to watch. I do think that they are going to go on a run and finish out the 2 games, and you're probably looking at the next Open Cup champ. I don't think that they're going to win the Supporters Shield, though. Like, to me, I see that depth being tested in the long term and Leagues Cup. To me, they're really, really good 14 players. Beyond that, I'm kind of like, okay. And I'm sure Noonan and all those guys are probably going to yell at me and stick this as bulletin board, but I'm okay with that. Like, they're one of, if not my favorite team in Major League Soccer, but no one expected them to be sitting in first right now.
No, but it kind of goes to show, though. I mean, they were awful over the past few years, but it goes to show in MLS, you could get a few players or a collection of players on the same page. You aren't that far off. I mean, while a team could fall off any moment, I feel like a team that's really struggled and not really been able to put the pieces together. You get a strong presence in the front office. You get a few players in there that can really change the temperature, and you can have yourself a situation like FC Cincinnati, where I think Golden Boot, wouldn't spin 3 years in a row, and now all of a sudden, I know you don't think they'll win the Supporters Shield, but they're in the discussion.
I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. Like, truly, like,
right.
I'm very much of the belief. It's funny you mentioned Paramount, like the games, right? I'm very much of the belief, or at least I try to in commentary, to remain as positive as possible. Like, even in situations where there's a mistake for something, try and highlight the good and what that build was, how the goal was scored, and then on the backside, we can pinpoint some of the things that could have gone differently defensively. I want everybody to win every game, honestly. Like, I know that's not feasible, but I don't want to see a historic organization like Chicago Fire be sitting towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I don't want to see Toronto, with all the names that they have and the reports coming out of The Athletic, and the same sort of argument. The LA Galaxy and everything that they've been through, the Colorado Rapids and the betting thing with Max, like, that is nothing that I want for this league, these players and those teams, but it's life, right? But to your point, like, the league has become so incredibly dense in terms of the quality of talent and play from 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, there are teams that literally 10 years ago could not compete in this league. Now, there are teams 10 years ago that could still make an argument for title runs, right? But because things are so close-knit, you know, the LA Galaxy, who, let's be really, really clear, have been horrendous this year. It's no lie. They lost Chicharito. That's fine. They're on 13 points. And yet, they're only 3 games out of a playoff spot. And I mean, come on, like they're basically halfway through the season. They're 3 games out. There's still plenty of a shot. I can remember this year calling Sporting KC at LAFC.
Yeah.
Incredible game, by the way. And that was the 1-1 couple, I don't know, month and a half back.
Yeah.
Going into that, everybody was so critical of Sporting. Yeah. And with all due respect, if you watch, they are a good football team. Like, they know how to put the ball on the deck, and Peter Vermees has that team playing in a really high level. They just didn't have results. And I saw them a ton last year. Like, I covered all the way to the Open Cup final. I saw them in the semis. That team couldn't touch this team this year. And yet the results were very similar. Sure enough, you get healthy, you get your DPs back, you start scoring goals, Alan Pulido's, and now you're looking at a team that is, I think it's like 1 loss in their last 7 or something like that, which has 4 wins, right on the playoff cusp. Like, that's how quickly things change in this league. So it doesn't matter how bad it can be, you can still turn around. They're not going to catch the teams at the top, LAFC and Seattle and St. Louis, but you know, they're still right there, and everybody's got a shot.
I feel like you're talking about Miami too. Like that's.
I'm not talking about Miami.
So, I'll do the quick question first.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the one to go get the Supporter Shield then? If it's not Cincy, who do you got?
Oh. The only reason I say it wouldn't be Cincy is I do envision them continuing the Open Cup run. Now, fortunately for them, the games are spread out differently than it was last year. Yeah. I mean, a little bit. So they're not playing a semifinal game for another month and a half. They don't play a final till a month after that, assuming they win. But then you mix in Leagues Cup. So all of a sudden, the congestion that we saw in May, where I heard a stat, I need to double check this, but I heard a stat that the least amount of games played by any MLS team in the month of May was 8. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
8. You're playing. That means every single team, 30 days has September 31. There we go. That means every single team in MLS played a game in just under 4 days. Like, that's for a month long. That's insane.
Yeah.
You're going to run into similar issues come like the stretch from end of July till end of August. And an Open Cup falls into it. That's why I'm hesitant for Cincinnati. I really like Philly. I do. The gap differential is still within reach. I mean, 10 points with 17 games to go is still right there. Nashville they're nice, man. They kind of got everything. And it's hilarious to me that people say, oh, well, you guys need to go get a DP number 9. Yeah, sure. Go get a DP 9. Just make it worse for everybody else in this league. Why not? And in the West, if I had to pick 2, just to make an argument and kind of round everything out, Seattle and LA. LA is at the best this year. The best I've seen any 2 teams play, Eastern or Western Conference, have been the Seattle Sounders and LAFC. Now, I know LAFC is going through it. They're exhausted. They're part of those numerical atrocities that I just talked about, you know, Champions League and Open Cup and all that stuff. And they need a break right now, and it's not going to come right away. The games are fast and furious, but LA and Seattle, the patterns of play, the veteran leadership, the coaching, they are incredible to watch. They are so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to stay on the, I guess, the topic of every other team but Atlanta, but I would, not that anybody asked, but I'm going with, I think St. Louis has an opportunity. I wouldn't bet on it because I don't bet on it.
Tommy's shaking his head.
Freaking crazy. I know he is. Whatever. Stay quiet down there. It's okay. But it's there, right? Like they came in hot and maybe not the most consistent, but I don't know. It's a little bit of a thing to cheer for the underdog, right?
It's a Mighty Ducks story for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's our Ducks fan, by the way. So
there you go.
I don't know.
Try to bring it up one.
Go take down the Hawks. I'm with you.
Right. You won
right.
my heart.
So, Atlanta, specifically, New York tomorrow. We're kind of on the tail end of this break, and both teams are missing folks left and right. So, how do both teams cope with the guys that are missing, the guys that are on their way back, or maybe aren't quite there yet? Last time for Atlanta, it really was to this degree was a 6-1 loss up in Columbus, and that was no fun for any of us. So how do both teams cope with this tomorrow?
Tyler, you have a camera at training today? I saw you tweeting about a couple of the player personnels out there and what could be selection-wise. So you have a camera?
I was actually not the one at training today.
Yeah.
I'm there often, but
okay.
But yeah, we try to bring as much as we can, in terms of the information from the training ground, but I got no secrets. I've got nothing that I'm hiding.
You're good, man. You're good. You're on the right scent. You guys you're close. Look, yeah, certainly a lot of questions for both teams. There's no doubt about that. Let's just start with Atlanta. Where to start with Atlanta is probably the better way to say it. Giakoumakis is suspended, so obviously you're going to have to replace him in the 9. I would imagine, I'm guessing at this point in time, he's probably just going to switch that to Miguel Berry. Statistically, that hasn't gone very well. Speed, that he's going to be able to open things up, but certainly not the same quality. And aerial prowess, like Giakoumakis in the air I really enjoy him. So you lose that aspect, and you lose some of the interchange. Him dropping down into the pocket again. Miguel Berry, with all due respect, he's got a different profile. Almada is the massive question mark. The conversation is coming in that they're going to evaluate what time, because there was supposedly something going on with one of his flights, and what time he was going to get back. How did the player feel? People have to understand that it's not just, oh, what did you do? Well, on paper, he played 5 minutes. I believe it was actually 9 overall between the two matches when you included the extra time. So, physically, you would imagine he'd been fine, but he's flying across the world from Indo. So that's a whole nother argument. Did you, when the game's finished, did you guys go out to dinner? Did you stay up late? How was your family life? Like, all these things come into decision-making for personnel. So he's really the big wild card. Do imagine that with the departure of Miles Robinson to Gold Cup, and Abram still not being available because of international duty, that you're going to see Young. That's my guess. Promise you I would tell you if I knew. I'll know in about 30 minutes if you guys want to bring me back on. So, yeah, I would imagine that they're probably going to go Young next to Purata. But look, you've still got a very consistent and steady back line for the most part. Brad's still in goal. I don't see any issues there overall. They got to clean up the silly mistakes, man. Honestly, there are. I mean, I'm sitting here watching, and I pay attention to all teams, but watching what goes on in the league and prepping a team is two totally different things. Calling a game is another argument, but just watching them, I want to throw a water bottle at the TV, because there are so many mistakes that are so self-inflicted wounds, like tennis, unforced errors, right? That if they could just get out of their own way, they wouldn't be on this run that they're on, the slide of form. And yet there have been some bright spots. Like Caleb Wiley is still starting to progress on the attacking side of things, and you're probably going to continue to see him higher. They are Araujo, even with his departure, they like where Caleb Wiley is at, and I agree with that. Jay Fortune in the midfield, he's going to be leaving for Gold Cup, but you still have his services. This team still has a lot of really good things about them. If they can get out of their way, imagine they're going to make a move. I probably would expect 2 big names in the transfer market. The question is where do you go there? Do you go for a winger and you go for a 10 and a DP to try and help out Almada and give some balance? Are you looking for some help at the 9 so you can give yourself rotation? Garth Lagerwey has always been very much about, when going for the big money and big names, to go with the core of the group. So it's a 9, it's a 10 in the 6-8 range as well. I kind of personally like the deeper role. I want that 6-8 type role. I think the midfield could use that help. That's where I would like to see it.
Me
but,
too.
Where does he end up going? What do we have? July 5th? Is that the right date? Am I doing the math right? on the window?
Fifth. Yes, fifth. Yeah.
Okay, so we're 2 weeks away. City's dealing with the same things. Would say that when they have to go young, their youngsters have more experience than Atlanta United's do. I mean, the back line, dear Lord, I haven't even updated the boards, which is the hilarious part here. But the back three: Tony Alfaro, James Sands, Justin Hack. I mean, you've got two holding midfielders and a third choice center back that started on the back line last time for City. That's what they're going through, right? They're trying to find a way to continue to push the development of the team, to continue to develop people as well, by the way, and not disrupt the overall thoughts of a coach that, look, you don't want to say it's not his fault that they've gotten these results. Of course, he's the one that's going to be sitting there holding the bill, but yes, it's the 9, but it's injuries, it's international, it's form. I mean, you had Maxime Chenot and Tyler Magno just literally screaming at each other on the pitch 3 weeks ago. So to steer all that in the right direction is difficult. And yet you've still got a really talented group that wants to keep the ball. I mean, they want to do everything that Atlanta does because Atlanta wants the ball, and so does NYCFC. So very conflicting in that aspect. Yeah,
I'm really curious to see kind of how it plays out. And by the way, you stay for 30 more minutes. You give us the inside scoop.
If I stay for 30 more minutes, I'm not going to get the scoop because I got the meeting in 8 minutes. So
we're going to get you out of here.
You're good.
Tommy.
Well, I was going to say, Tyler, one of the things that we just did our mid-season review, and one of the
I was going to bring that up.
We tried to sum up the first half in one sentence, and mine was, "Don't leave early." This team's crazy. This team's crazy, and the 85 minutes and after, you don't know. They're going to blow a lead, or Amada's going to do something magical. That's like your two options.
Yeah.
There was also a stat too that we did in our review that we thought was very interesting. And it's not even for every match, but had Atlanta given up one less goal, which easier said than done, but you're talking about the silly mistakes. Had Atlanta given up one less goal in their matches up until this point, they would actually be sitting 2 points ahead of Cincinnati right now. So
that's interesting.
Yes. And you think of how many individual errors that the team has made, like you're talking about. It's so frustrating. There's so many just boneheaded mistakes. And it admittedly, it goes back to last year, but it's hard to watch sometimes. And it's one of those things where is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it a coaching thing? Is it just the players not having their heads screwed on right? It's a tough thing to figure out.
I mean, I would also say respectfully that you say that it all goes back to last year. Personally, I think it goes much further than that.
Yeah.
The Joseph Martinez injury was everything for me. And that's just kind of one thing after another, right? But you could also be sitting here having an argument of, man, we don't have good personnel, we don't play well, we look like crap, excuse my mouth, we can't score, we give up too much. Like, certainly you guys give up too many goals, but you also score a million. So what is it, second, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it second most scored and second most given up or something like that?
I think
it's on my board. I know that.
Yeah, Columbus
it's close to it
for most.
Yeah. So, I mean, but like, that's the thing is people should have such a positive outlook on it because so much of what goes on within Atlanta United's matches are self-inflicted wounds. So you're not chasing the dragon in the sense of, well, we need to go get this, and this. We need to change system. We need to change coaches. Like you guys have, Atlanta United has a lot of really good things going for it and a lot of amazing pieces in place that a lot of other clubs around this league do not. Like the wish list that other clubs have compared to you guys. Man. Like you're talking about trying to feed an entire orphanage as opposed to a single mother trying to feed one kid. Like truly, like that's where we're at. Maybe it's not the greatest of analogies, but I come from a single parent household. So like my mom trying to take care of me as opposed to, Zinedine Zidane, who just got named godfather of an orphanage, right? And children's home. Like there's just a lot more mouths to feed. You're not running into that situation. Columbus actually, by the way, is actually in a very similar situation where they can't get out of their own way. So it's good problems to have. Again, like it's starting to come together. Like Brooks Lennon looks a lot more fluid coming off the back line. I was watching him at training today, the way that he's whipping balls into the box and his patterns moving in, moving out, like the consistency you're getting in the relationship between he and Derek Etienne, like getting comfortable, Etienne coming a bit more on the inversion side, allowing Brooks to progress. Like that's something tomorrow with Brooks that I heavily anticipate seeing because of the back three of NYCFC and the balance that Atlanta is able to utilize on their back line. I see him very frequent down into the channel serving stuff in.
Yeah, we'll kind of wind down in just a little bit. I know you got to run off, but you're right. You kind of touched on it for Atlanta, but just overall keys to success for both teams. I mean, Atlanta mentioned mistakes, silly mistakes. NYCFC missing folks as well. So I guess measuring both teams, what are you looking for the most as far as success for both teams? How can either team get a win?
Yeah, so for Atlanta United, personally thought the opening 25-30 minutes against DC United was one of the best stretches we saw all season long for that team. That's my personal opinion. The problem is consistency lacks, and you lost the midfield. So when you don't have Thiago Almada, all of a sudden, like, what's going to happen there? Like, who's going to take control of that? Because he does so much. And I'm not just talking about on the attacking side. Like, he is certainly attack-minded, but you pick your head up and think about the Etienne chance where, I mean, Almada at that point in time was, 35 yards out off the end line, turns, little half pivot over, pings the ball into the corner, Etienne to the byline, ball back across, beautiful movement. You're going to lose that. Who steps into that stead? And can the balance also be there when you don't have the ball? Because City certainly wants it. What does the defensive pressure look like? Like, are you going to send Almada so good popping off the 9's shoulder and going and chasing that, but then you have support coming up from the rear? When he's not there, who now takes that responsibility? Because it is such a massive void to fill. So it's easy to say the midfield, but when you specifically reference one player that affects four different, ventures and sectors on the field, that's the most important thing for me, because Keaton Parks will eat you alive if you don't get enough pressure on him. And his counterpart pairing, James Sands, unavailable, like, just like the Almada argument, like, who's going to be paired in that spot? Like, who's going to be next to Keaton Parks? It could certainly be Alfredo Morales. Like, Justin Hack has been on the back line, but Maxime Chenot is supposedly going to come back. Can he go? Like, I don't necessarily know. Like, Hack, you could slide in there, right? Are you going to flatten out the midfield and let Richie Ledesma take that argument? He doesn't do that well in the double pivot down low when it's just the two of them. He likes to play in a higher line. So if you can get, maybe Sadic steps in. If you can get someone to take full grasp of that spot, to me, that is everything within this game. Because both teams just have so much speed on the width. You know that you can get balls down into the corner. The 9 is certainly going to be lacking for both teams, which leads me back to the focal point of the central part of this field and being able to gut punch each other and then get back up and then go take control of a match.
So what you're saying is, like us, it's a crap show. We have no idea what's going to go down.
I'll put it this way. I would much prefer to be calling this game in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time. After, what is that? Gold Cup's done in 3 weeks. So, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd rather be calling it then.
So we appreciate your time, man. Last thing.
Yeah.
Gotta end it on this one. But especially, I didn't know this about you with Atlanta. You got the game late. Where do you go eat tomorrow? What is, if you're kind of a foodie, if you're that kind of guy, where are you picking? Let's say around the bends or somewhere relatively close. Where are you going to go eat?
I really, so here's the thing. I normally won't eat after a match. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty strict about my diet and stuff. But I'm also normally getting on a plane at 6 o'clock in the morning to fly home and hang out with my family for a day or two and then go back out on the road. Because we're in Columbus, we're actually going straight to Columbus. I don't know, maybe we could open up the floor and you could suggest late night eats. See, the other problem is games at 7:30, we're not done when the match is done. We don't get off air because we do post game and we also do interviews for MLS 360. We're not walking out of the stadium until like 10:15, 10:30, which means I'm not sitting down until 10:45, 11 o'clock. You guys tell me where to go. And I'll send pics, and you guys can come meet me and hang out. I'm down for that.
Hey, well, speaking of,
let's go
tomorrow. If we see you, definitely come say hey for sure.
Yeah, done.
I mean, you want something snazzy, you have the red phone booth, but you got to have the code to get in that place.
I'm going there tonight. I got the code. What else you got?
I'm done.
That's my spot, man. It's one of my favorite bars in America.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, well, dang, you got me then.
Yeah, I went to there's like, it's not on the same street, but it's on that same strip. There's a really cool like 2 or 3 story diner that I spent some good time at.
Ooh, see, you put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to do my homework. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's also
got the black and white, like old school 50 floors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a similar one that's actually a really like nice Mexican restaurant that's huge, and it's in that same area. And I have to get the name of it.
I'm in. Send it my way. Come see me at the game tomorrow. Come stop by the booth, guys.
Absolutely. I'll be up there.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Ohio, but in Columbus, go to Moran's.
Moran's?
Yeah. If you like some spicy Cajun type things, amazing.
More Morans?
Yep, right down the street from the Columbus Blue Jackets arena.
Oh, I got it. Here we go. Oh yeah.
We try to get set up on this show.
Nice.
We can.
Cajun shrimp, amazing.
Sweet.
I'm in.
Well, Devon, we appreciate it, man. Absolutely good time. You're welcome anytime you want to come back for sure. I don't know if you've got any more here in Atlanta or for Atlanta this year, but you're welcome anytime. It's an open invite.
Sydney, Tyler, Tommy, appreciate you guys. You're awesome liars, and I appreciate that. but I'll take it. And honestly, come see me tomorrow. Maybe we all can frequent a adult water or something after the game together.
Yeah, that works. We'll be there.
Cheers, boys. All the best.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
What is this secret room? What is this secret code?
So it's the red phone booth, which it's like a speakeasy type bar, and you have to have a code to get in. And they've got a handful of them around. I don't even know where else. I've never looked besides Atlanta, but they're just different places. And they're kind of like some Harry Potter-esque, like you tap on the right brick, you get to go in kind of deal. And it's just a nice bar.
We have
a few of those here in Ohio. My buddy made one in his basement, like during COVID. That was like his thing. So he built a wall out of like cardboard boxes, and he just hid from his wife in this room. It was pretty amazing.
Was this in the like same vicinity as the truck stop you referred to earlier?
No. No. But that truck stop was near Columbus, so
oh boy,
it's a little crazy when you get down south in Ohio.
Yeah,
that's why when you drive out of the "Hell is Real" sign, you know you're gonna run into a lot of religious signs when you get down there, and it gets a little wild down there.
The deep south of Ohio.
yeah, exactly.
No, but that was good, Devon. Appreciate not that I'm speaking to him directly now, but definitely appreciate you coming on, and it was good insight though, really good insight.
Yeah, it was.
We had maybe a little bit more to talk about with the men's national team than I think we necessarily planned for, but that's good though, because, Atlanta is going to continue to have folks playing in that team, I think, for quite some time. I don't think that's going to change with Miles leaving Atlanta. You've got guys that are on the way up, maybe on the fringe, but on the way up. And I think Atlanta is still going to be a big part of the men's national team in some way for quite some time in the future. If you listen to Carlos Bocanegra, Noah Cobb's just going to replace Miles Robinson.
Yeah.
We shall see.
They'll sign someone. They'll sign somebody. You're going to have a lot of money freed up with Miles leaving.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
how are you guys feel? Yeah.
No, go ahead,
how are you guys feeling? That's good. How you guys are feeling. All things considered, I mean, we talked about it already, but just what's your mentality going into this match, and we'll kind of get into predictions too. But I mean, I feel cautiously optimistic. I don't think we'll see a 6-1 like we did a few months ago against Columbus, because I feel like that's an aberration, a one-off. Yeah, I feel like this team is a lot better than 6-1. They've grown. You'd like to think they've grown a lot more than they had. They've grown since that time. They have a better handle of things since that time. I feel like the adversity that they've gone through has really helped them to become a better team. And I'd like to think that the win against DC United, even though it came before the break, can really be a jumping off point for this club for the last 16 games of the regular season. I'm just saying the MLS season. I'm not counting Leagues Cup or anything like that. But really for this season moving forward, I'd like to think that they can do well until the international, the transfer window, I should say. And then once you get those reinforcements, once you get Miles back, once you get your next DP, whoever that may be, you're really in the spot, like I said, or like we said earlier, to make that run to the postseason and hopefully knock off a few teams to get yourself in a good position to win a trophy. So, yeah, it's going to be tough with so many players missing. But again, I think that the club will be more prepared and a little. They're not going to lose 6-1, essentially. Like
earlier, God, so. You did it again. You did it again. They're not going to lose 6-1. It's 7-1. It's 7-1 New York FC.
It's a touchdown. And a safety.
I want to see a plan. Like, I want to see them have a game plan. Yeah. I don't want them just to go out there and just throw a bunch of guys out and just sit there, like that. I want them to come out and have a good idea of what they want to do here, because they didn't have that in Columbus. They just threw a bunch of guys out there, and it really didn't seem like they knew what they were doing. Like, it didn't seem like, it almost felt like they were kind of trying to sit back at a lot of times, and then they were just getting burned. Like, I want to see them be able to go out there with whoever they end up choosing and figure it out. Because DC, they had a plan, right? Like, they went into that DC game, and you could tell that they were trying to go over the top and that they were trying to pick on certain players. I want to see that here. I know there's a lot of young players, a lot of guys that may not have experience in this game, but I feel like Pineda is very deep into the academy, right? Like, he knows about the academy. He studies the academy. He's not Frank de Boer, where probably didn't even know the academy really existed at points in time. There's a twos? What is that? No, like he knows about these players, right? He's talked about Tyler Wolff forever since he came in, right? And now he's producing. So he knows what a lot of these young players' strengths are. Now, whether they play or not is another story. But I think he knows that this guy can do something here. Question is will he do it? Will he be able to, will he play these guys? Does he trust them? And I think that's something that's going to be really big here, is the trust factor on here. But I think that in a game like this, as I said it earlier, I think you have to get creative. I think you have to do some bold things. And a lot of times doing bold things rewards you.
Yeah.
So personnel-wise, I mean, it's got to be Cobb at center back next to Berhalter, right? I mean, you have no other choices.
Yeah.
But then you see Wolff will be at the right wing. And then midfield, what do you do in midfield? I mean, Devon kind of brought up Sadic. Ibarra's not going to be available, I don't think.
Ibarra's available.
Oh, he is available. I thought he said he got a red card.
But, of course you did.
Yeah.
It's just like par for the course.
He will be available. But yeah, Sosa won't be available. I mean, you're kind of forced into. I mean, Hosetu will be available for what it's worth, but I mean, you're kind of forced into playing maybe Ibarra, Sadic midfield, right? Or what do you do there?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's what I would do. And when it comes time to sub out Sadic, I'm putting Nick Firmino in there. And dropping Jay Fortune back. I think that's going to be really it's that quote unquote Lagerwey spine of the team.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to figure out this midfield, and Jay Fortune gave a good account of himself the other day. Nick Firmino showed well. I know the argument is you get called up so many times, you can only play so many times on those call ups. Mm-hmm. You got to see what you got, because right now. You had another homegrown that came up and made a difference in this last match. And Noah Cobb, I'm not knocking anything he's done for the first team this year. I actually thought he was one of the better players in the Open Cup match, and the Columbus match was just a crap show everywhere. So I'm not judging anything about that with him. but he's shown in Next Pro that he can do well. He's captained the Next Pro All-Star team last year. So the talent's there. Firmino, the dude is just on one right now. So if you get him in and just get him involved a little bit, I think that takes New York by surprise, because he's been up against some pretty tough competition in terms of midfields in Next Pro this year, and he's done phenomenal, and he's scoring goals like crazy. So
yeah, I guess other side of the coin is, I mean, is it just because he's playing MLS Next Pro teams that he's doing well, or will he struggle at the next step of the competition? And I don't know. We've never seen him in MLS, so he could be a pleasant surprise. I just don't know if you start him. I think you bring him out as a substitute at the very least. Don't forget, Brennan could be part of that discussion too, as a possible short-term agreement. And we'll see what the situation is with that.
Well, both of them are definitely getting the short-term agreements.
Yeah,
Pineda verified that today. The question mark to me, it's more Firmino than Brennan, because I think you're okay on the wings, right? Like, I don't think you've got to worry as much. It's the midfield that you have to be concerned with going forward. So you got no true number 10 unless you want to put Wolf there, but Wolf's done so well out on the wing, you don't want to move him. So
Joel.
I mean, it's very, very interesting how this plays out tomorrow. And, if Pineda pulls the right strings, then he'll be touted as a genius, because I don't think it really knows what to expect tomorrow. It's going to be kind of all over the place.
It could just be boring. It just could be Josetu, Sejdic, and I mean, it could just be the complete obvious things here. I want a surprise. I just want one surprise in there to look at, and it can't be Dio. Like that's not
Eric Lopez.
Oh God, Eric Lopez. He's questionable. He's questionable right now. That's interesting that he's there. And in the chat, people are talking about, what do you mean about Miles, freeing some cap space up? I mean, when he does go, he was making just about 1.5 million there. So that's not a small amount of change there. When he does leave, I mean, I know we're not making any money off of him because he'll probably leave on a free here, but that does open up some space to go and get somebody else quality.
Yeah.
Not Miles quality probably, but
right.
Who is really?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll throw this out there really quick too, Sydney. I'm sorry. Jimothy pointing this out, and it is a good point, because we're back to the whole back-to-back games kind of thing, but you do need some rotation because of this weekend. I think now we can have the argument about Josetu and Sejdic and Ibarra and the midfield all day, but based on their strengths, based on the teams that you're playing in the next two matches, I think the younger group, just because of how they play, fits this New York City match better than you do against the Red Bulls. Josetu, I think, is whatever you want to say about his passing forward, whatever. I do think he is going to be a little calmer in the midfield versus the Red Bulls. I'm not saying he's going to go out and just be the man of the match. However, he does have the experience to kind of calm things down against the press that the Red Bulls are going to bring. So that's where your experience comes in. Talent, different story. But in this case, you want to let your midfield that has energy, that's hungry, the young guys, let them run against the team that is also having midfield issues right now as well, and see what they can make of it. And then let maybe your more experienced guys that maybe can hold the ball a little bit better in certain situations, let them go play against the Red Bulls.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like you're gonna get more players back next week. The good news is the Red Bulls do play Wednesday as well, so they're not just sitting around doing nothing on Wednesday. They're playing as well, so they do get to stay home for back-to-back home games, so that is an advantage towards them. But we're not on the road right now, so that definitely helps. And then you'll get Giacomakis, you'll get Omada back next week, or on Saturday at full strength. And I think that's that was the last time we played Red Bulls. That was a big game, right? Like that was like, the Red Bulls aren't good, but the Red Bulls play tough, and that was one of the times especially at home, where we showed the physicality, because the Red Bulls are still physical. They're still physical. They still try to hold that type of play, and they're going to push you around. And that was one of the rare times that this team was able to really stand up to them, and they really grinded that win out. So I definitely think that game is going to be a battle. But if they could do exactly what they did at home, I think they're a good chance here. And like you said, the Columbus game, you're on the road. They got an early goal, and it just went all downhill from here. It could be the exact same situation in Atlanta. Atlanta's at home this time. You get an early goal, you rattle some of these young players, and it just goes bad, and we win 6-1. Like, you've got to – it's probably a lot of people's first time playing at Mercedes-Benz, some of these players. So the crowd has to be there. The crowd has to get into it. And how do you do that? You score an early goal, right? You score an early goal in the Benz on a non-experienced team. I think you're in good shape. So I think that's the key to winning here. 7-1. Prediction guys saying 7-1.
I was gonna say you're playing two desperate teams. I'll kind of throw in my prediction too. NYCFC, 18 goals this season in 18 matches, so about a goal a match. And I was like in my interview with Glenn, a little plug. I think he mentioned that in 9 matches this season, New York City have had 2 shots on goal or less, or something like that. So they're a desperate side. They haven't won in a while. I think, again, if you're Atlanta United, you can nick a goal. You can add to that desperation for NYC. Like you were saying, Tommy, several players that NYC will have that aren't really familiar with MLS or haven't played a whole lot. So I feel like it's a 1-0 game. I really do. I feel Atlanta United kind of nicks a goal. It makes NYC chase things, and I don't know right now if they have the offensive firepower to overcome that deficit. I mean, it could just as easily be a late goal like they had on Saturday, and not to jinx things, but yeah, I mean,
why, Sydney? Why do you do this all season? All season, you just do it to us. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it.
No.
Meanwhile, you said we can't lose 6-1.
No, but yeah, I say 1-0 Atlanta United. Yeah, I think they nick a goal, and I don't know if NYC, gets it back, especially playing on the road. So 1-0.
Yeah. I mean, I think all the points are there for sure. Everything y'all said is absolutely correct. The crowd, get everybody into it, because it's intimidating. That's the big thing. It really is intimidating to come into a place like that. There is nowhere else in this country like it, especially when the crowd's into it. So I think I was going to say 1-0 actually. And then I thought differently, because I thought about Caleb Wiley and Tyler Wolff. And I thought about Tyler Wolff making a late run to the back post off of a Caleb Wiley cross, and that being the second goal of the night. The first one, I have no freaking clue who it's going to come from. Probably Parada off of a header, off a corner.
I was going to say Cobb on the set piece.
Yeah, hey,
something weird like that.
One half dozen the other. Caleb and Wolff, I think they can get involved. You've got Tyler Wolff playing that kind of just fundamental winger role where he makes the run that he's supposed to make, and the ball's there, and all he's going to do is poke it in. So I'm going to say 2-0 Atlanta, and I think the crowd gets really involved. Brad helps keep it, and I know, again, is similar back line to Columbus, but it's a totally different set of circumstances. I think Brad helps Noah Cobb and Parada kind of keep it together back there. Lennon and Gutman are going to be huge, especially Gutman coming off the good match that he had. I think he'll be vital back there. And, yeah, I'm going to say 2-0.
What's your favorite movie, Tyler? Like your favorite movie series?
Off the cuff, or like you want to think about this for a minute?
Just something quick.
The Last Samurai.
Okay, like you're so good at writing fan fiction. I feel like you should write like you should just write it, because we all do predictions. We just throw an answer, and Bruno and I are on the same page. I'm gonna say 3-1, but like when you do it, like you think of every like small piece that happens.
Yeah.
Like sun comes down on the field, it's shining on Tyler Wolff. He knows at this exact moment if he runs to the corner, the ball will be there. Like you just have it all like you just sit there like, you know, most of us just play on our phones like when we're going to the bathroom. You're just typing away like this fan fiction of these stories. I love it. I love it. But man, like you need to start a book like Atlanta United, the Tyler Pilgrim story.
Tyler Wolff, tapping merchant.
And then like Tyler writes the story and they win MLS Cup. And then then next season we have a book written by Sydney, and it comes out Atlanta United, they win the wooden spoon.
Who do we go with?
Right.
Two completely opposites every time. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did Tyler forget to knock on wood whenever Sydney gave his pessimistic take?
Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm actually a half full kind of guy, to be honest with you.
Well,
but yeah.
What happens during this show that you're like, no, I don't believe it.
I don't know. I don't do it on purpose. I promise.
I feel that way about every game every sporting game. Like anytime the Falcons game starts, I'm like, oh, we're gonna lose this game.
Yeah.
I went glass half empty on the Falcons. Sometime in the middle of the third quarter in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and I haven't recovered since.
Yeah,
so
that worked out really well.
I know we got to wrap up here, but there's a picture of me at the Super Bowl my wife took. She posted it on Facebook, and it's just me sitting there, and like I'm on the couch, and it's halftime. I'm watching Lady Gaga. I think it was Lady Gaga was the halftime show, and she's like, "He's still so nervous. I don't understand why."
She learned quick.
Every damn year, that picture comes up on freaking 28-3 day, and I make sure to point it out to her and go, "This is what you did. This is what you did. You Sydney'd this game. You Sydney'd this game."
It was I blame Maroon 5. I think it was Maroon 5 that year.
No, it was a woman. It was definitely Maroon 5 played the Atlanta Super Bowl where they were in Atlanta and people were upset, I think.
It was Lady Gaga.
And she went long.
Time, you're right.
And she went long, and that's why they said it threw the Falcons off because it was longer than it was supposed to be to clean everything up.
Is that why all these teams at the bins now?
Sydney, just let me go with this. This is why they lost. Oh man, you know what? You're ruining everything.
Go ahead. You're fine. All right.
I'm writing my fan fiction. Falcons win 31-3.
Oh my word. All right. We're way off track.
That's okay. It's entertainment.
Which happens quite a bit.
That's why you guys love us.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Exactly. Squirrel. Yeah. Just real quick. Reminder about Patreon. Patreon.com/scarves and spikes. The link will be in the chat as well as the comments. You get my interview with Glenn Crixus on there. And we're hoping to do something related to the Gold Cup as well, guys. So we're going to try to get that worked out, nailing some things down, but, we'll send the link as soon as it's done. Yeah, we're working on it. But, please join us on Patreon. Like I said, YouTube show and the podcast will always be free. We like to throw in some extra content, and not just that extra audio video content, but extra benefits. Like we mentioned, the virtual watch parties and all of that. Special giveaways, merch discounts, and the like. So, again, Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. And shout out to Justin. I see you in the chat. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for joining us on the watch party a few weeks back. And thanks to everyone who may be watching or listening that is already a subscriber to Patreon. So, really appreciate it.
And if you've recently won, your stuff is on its way.
Yes.
We just have to throw that out there.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, Spaces should be fun on Saturday. Just thinking about it. I mean, you're gonna have we're gonna be doing post game, and then the Gold Cup's gonna be going on at the same time. That's gonna be starting right around the end of our game. It's gonna be a crazy night.
Yes, it is. I like it.
I like to stay busy, and if I'm staying home on a Saturday watching soccer, I'm not spending money. And that's even a better thing.
Especially when there's no watch along involved, where you have to go buy alcohol to then be a part of it.
I mean, just because there's no watch along, geez.
Well, that's true. That's true. All right.
Awesome. Well, this was fun.
It was a good time. Thanks to Devon Kerr for sure for coming on. Very awesome. Good time. Hope he's having a good time at the Speakeasy currently. Maybe in a little bit, but yeah.
Well, yeah, really appreciate Devon. Really appreciate bringing you guys these guests, and we'll be on the Spaces on Wednesday night, tomorrow night, and then Saturday, of course, after Red Bulls, we'll find a way to get in there. I know it'll be a busy night, but yeah.
Let's do Spaces all in like a New York accent. Like a New York accent, we all just do it. I had a buddy that lived a neighbor that lived. He was from New York, and like he'd always be like, "Let's go to the car. Let's go to the car," like over and over again.
That's a Boston accent, but I get what you mean.
I can't. No,
the core, not the car, the core.
I don't know, man. Forget
about
it.
Just throwing it out there.
And
I've relatives up in Long Island, so.
I'm terrible with accents. I'm terrible. Somehow, usually all my accents end up being Borat.
I don't want to offend anybody that is like from New York, Sydney.
Yeah, no, my bad. I started all this.
But you don't have that accent though.
But every time I do an impression, it turns into Borat. Like that's like my weakness. Is like I'll try to do like someone like, oh, do this, and like all of a sudden I just turn into Borat.
So,
oh Lord.
Enlighten us. Yeah. Enlighten us. I want to hear it.
Very nice. Let it win. All right, go. Just hit the credits. Just hit the credits. Just hit it. Just hit it. I gotta go.
All right.
Good time, guys.
We're done. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you.
Absolutely. We'll see y'all soon next week.
Yes.
On the brand new website, I'm gonna put a fan fiction section.
Someone's gonna draw like anime pictures, like of it. Like of the characters scoring goals that you write.
It'll be its own thing.
Best fanfic wins a prize.
Hey, I like it. Can I win the prize too?
No, you are an employee. Well, not an employee, but a host, co-host. All right, thanks everyone. See ya.
See ya.